If we remove the outer layer of today's civilization, the metal in our vehicles, the glass in our buildings, and the plastic in our electronics, what remains is an invisible digital backbone made of silicon. Silicon has quietly become the most important material of the modern era. It powers our phones, our hospitals, our banks, our factories, and even our defense systems. By 2026, technology is no longer a separate industry. It is the foundation of every industry. Farming depends on sensors, medicine depends on data, finance depends on algorithms, and governments depend on computing. Semiconductors are not just components anymore. They are the infrastructure of civilization itself. For the first time in history, water entered the same global trading system as gold, oil, and agricultural goods. Financial markets began treating water not as a shared necessity, but as an economic resource that could be bought, sold, and speculated on. This shift quietly changed the meaning of water itself. It was no longer seen only as a basic human need or a natural gift. It became a financial instrument, sometimes called blue gold. That transition marked the end of an age when water was abundant and inexpensive, and the start of a world where access to water is shaped as much by economic power as by geography. In this new reality, financial flows increasingly influence rivers, reservoirs, and communities. To understand how serious this change really is, we have to let go of the simple version of the water cycle we learned in school. We were taught that water endlessly circulates. It rises as vapor, falls as rain, and always comes back again. In reality, modern human activity has disrupted that balance. Pollution, overuse, climate shifts, and population growth have placed more demand on fresh water than nature can restore in the same time frame. The result is a growing global water deficit, a situation where consumption is outpacing replenishment. In many regions, this feels less like a shortage and more like a slow financial collapse of nature's most essential resource. Humanity is now spending its water reserves instead of living off the interest. Vast underground reservoirs, formed slowly over geological time, are being emptied far faster than nature can ever replace them. In parts of South Asia, groundwater levels are sinking, year after year, as farms and cities pull more water than the land can restore. Across central North America, one of the world's largest freshwater basins is shrinking as irrigation. Demands continue to rise, especially for large-scale industrial agriculture and biofuel production. What once felt like an endless supply is turning into a finite account, and many regions are approaching the point where refilling it will no longer be possible within human timescales. In some regions, the land itself is sinking because underground water is being taken out too quickly. Areas that supported civilizations for thousands of years are now becoming unstable as the natural water balance is destroyed. Investors notice this shortage before governments did. They understand that while money can be created, water cannot. When something becomes rare and demand stays high, its value increases. That is exactly what is now happening with water. When water becomes more expensive, the people who control it gain real power. Access to water starts to shape economies, communities, and even politics. This has started a quiet global competition. Large investors and governments are buying land around the world mainly because it includes legal rights to water. Farms, ranches, and plantations are being purchased not for the crops or animals, but for the fresh water beneath and around them to secure future supply. These investors are preparing for a world where growing food, running technology, and producing advanced electronics will all require access to increasingly expensive fresh water. But this shift is not only about prices or markets. It is about who decides who gets water and who does not. In the past, water systems were usually managed by local communities or public institutions, with the goal of serving people rather than maximizing profit. In the past, cities and countries managed water mainly to serve their people. The goal was to provide access, not to make money. Now that system is changing. Water systems are being treated like business, investments, and controlled by large companies across the world. This means rich countries and big corporations are securing water for themselves by taking it from poorer regions that need it just as much. This has created a new form of resource imbalance. Wealthy countries and powerful corporations are securing water for themselves by extracting it from regions that are less able to protect their own supplies. In some dry areas, foreign companies have purchased land specifically to access groundwater, exporting water-intensive products abroad while local communities face increasing shortages. Some countries and companies are shifting their water problems onto other places instead of fixing them at home. In parts of Latin America, large drink companies are allowed to take huge amounts of groundwater every day from areas where local people depend on that same water. This has created a situation where clean water becomes hard to get or expensive for villagers, while bottled soft drinks stay cheap and easy to buy. When water is treated like a product to be bought and sold, it can weaken a country's control over its own resources. Water is one of the most important things a nation must protect. If a government cannot provide enough water to its people, people lose trust in that government. But today, many countries are giving up control over their water through international business deals and agreements. When a poorer country tries to protect water for its own people instead of profits for foreign companies, it can face legal trouble outside its own courts. These cases are often handled by international panels instead of local judges. If a government limits water prices to help poor families or cancels a bad contract, the company can demand money for profits it expected to make. These lawsuits are very large and expensive. Some of them can financially damage or even bankrupt smaller countries. This is creating a clash between the idea that people have a basic right to water and the idea that companies have a right to make money. This conflict is becoming a new source of tension in the world. The world is moving from conflicts over oil to conflicts over water, but these conflicts will not always involve armies or wars. They will show up as legal cases, social unrest in dry cities, and people leaving their homes because the land can no longer support them. In the next part, we will look at the legal system that allows companies to challenge government decisions. We will look at real cases where countries had to pay large amounts of money just for trying to protect their own water. To understand why governments are losing control over water, it is not enough to look at courts or politicians. The real power often lies in hidden international legal systems that most people never see. This system is called ISDS. It is not a normal court. There are no public judges, no juries, and no appeals like in regular legal systems. It is a private legal process written into many international trade and investment agreements. When a big company thinks a government decision has hurt its profits, it does not have to go to that country's courts. It can take the case to an international legal panel instead. The people who decide these cases are not government judges. They are private lawyers. Each case is decided by 3 people, one chosen by the company, one by the government, and one agreed on by both. These lawyers often switch roles between judging and representing companies, which makes the system unfairly favor investors. Companies use a legal idea called indirect taking. Normally, this means the government takes your property. But here it also means the government passes a law that reduces a company's future profits. Even if the law is meant to protect the environment or save water, the company can demand money for the profit it thinks it lost. In these cases, companies ask for money they have not actually earned yet. A famous example happened in a Bolivian city around the year 2000, during what became known as the water conflict. The government was pushed to privatize its water system and sold control to a foreign company group. Soon after the water system was privatized, water prices went up very fast. For poor families, the water bill became a big part of their monthly income. The contract also gave the company control over almost all water in the area, including naturally collected water. Under the new rules, even collecting rainwater for home use was treated as illegal. This made many people angry, and large protests started in the city. The situation became tense. Emergency rules were declared, and a young protester was killed, which shocked the country. After that, public pressure became too strong to ignore. After the protests, the company left the country and the government canceled the deal. The water system was returned to public control. But the company then started a legal case asking for a lot of money. Even though it had done very little work and stayed only a short time, the company asked for a very large amount of money for profits it thought it would have made in the future. For a poor country, that amount could have paid for important things like hospitals or schools. The company finally dropped the case, only after strong international pressure damaged its public image. In the end, the company accepted a very small payment and dropped the case. But the message to other countries was clear. Challenging powerful companies over water can be risky and expensive. A similar case later happened in a small Central American country where water is already very scarce.